as like a culture, like especially just within the Black culture, we have so much of like a almost like ingrained in us, like, hey, people sacrificed for us to get to this spot, so therefore like it's also your duty to sacrifice to get to the next thing. So I think there's a lot of that behind like this intent of like, how do I help others get to this point in this space.
Yeah.
I also think a lot of it is that for me, if it's not meaningful, why do it? So you talked about like CPG stuff before, and like, I don't know, this is partly being an entrepreneur, but I feel like I could do a lot of different things for different people. And like, would I really be excited about like helping this organization, Nike, who's already making a lot of money selling these things that we don't really need, make more money?
Yeah.
Or how do we actually help folks who are doing really good stuff and need help? How do we actually help them move forward?
Yeah.
So I think that really is like a huge underlying part for me, is that I think I would be bored in my job and I would lack motivation if it wasn't actually something meaningful in moving the world forward.
Welcome to the Kickback with Keri podcast. I'm your host, Keri Henderson, and today I'm kicking back with Brian Taylor, the owner of Goldiata Creative, a social impact marketing agency that is helping businesses, organizations, and schools increase their reach and visibility. Goldiata is on pace to be one of Inc.'s 5,000 fastest growing private companies in the U.S., and they have a goal of donating $250,000 of their revenue to organizations by 2028. In this episode, we're talking about why it's so important to do work that is meaningful, the impact of AI in marketing, how to choose the right clients, and some of the marketing mistakes purpose-driven organizations are making when they're trying to reach their target audience. If you're a marketer looking to grow a marketing agency, or you're an organization looking to grow your reach and visibility, this is an episode you don't want to miss. But I want to thank you so much for joining me on the couch today at the Kickback to talk about Goldiata Creative. And so we wanted to jump into your origin story because I did a little bit of research.
Oh, okay, let's see.
I found some videos on talking about your journey, and I thought it was interesting from going from football to marketing. So how did you go from football to marketing and end up in Baltimore with Goldiata?
Yeah, it's honestly really interesting. It's kind of like a complicated story. So I'll give you the short story. Because there was a lot of things with football that translate over into like what I'm doing in this space, mainly in terms of like, for example, it would be like a hurricane outside, and we would have to go out and practice anyway.
Really?
At like 6 in the morning, they were like, hurricane's coming in. We're going to beat the hurricane in practice, and we're going to do these things. So like, I think there's a lot of direct pieces of being an entrepreneur where it's like, somebody's got to show up and do this thing regardless, that translate. But honestly, a lot of the journey of like starting the business was more from like feeling like I had these opportunities to be successful, quote unquote, and feeling guilty about it in a lot of ways. Like wanting to be able to do something with the fact that like I was afforded opportunities rather than just like going on my own journey and being like, I earned all of this and I feel really good about it. And wanting to figure out how could I use those things, whether it was like getting to go to a school on like scholarship. And those kind of things, and trying to like make that difference and create opportunities. Why I didn't just work at like a nonprofit? It's a great question that I don't know the answer to.
Because you work with nonprofits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But ended up starting the business as kind of a means of doing that. Yeah.
So starting the business as a means to like be impactful, but basically on your terms versus working for somebody else.
Yeah, 100%.
Gotcha. So what did you major in marketing in college?
Yep.
You did?
I majored in marketing, but like, you don't really learn what you actually...
I majored in marketing too, so I agree.
Yeah, you know?
It's not the real world.
We learn like the 101 stuff, but not actually like how do you run an ad campaign or what those things look like.
Because well, at that time too, I think about it, even when I was in grad school, so I'm like, I don't think we had as many. I don't even remember if we had an entrepreneur course. If we did, I wasn't thinking about being one at the time. And I'm like, now that needs to be mandatory because everyone is moving into starting their own business. It's like you need to take an entrepreneur course. And even when it came to marketing, because where I was in Pittsburgh, it was very CPG focused.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, you could work at Heinz, you could work
Right.
at, this company or that company. And it wasn't anything related to online because
Yep.
at that time, like, we were still using AIM to do
Yeah.
chats and stuff,
Yeah.
when I was in grad school. And so the idea of the digital marketing space was not even a thought to even have
Correct.
class or learn anything.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, like when you say that, and I haven't honestly thought about this in a long time, but in that era too, we focus so much on like organic social media too, which obviously is like really important. It's valuable and all those sort of things, but especially as like the landscape has shifted, where so much of it is like a pay to play system now. Like those weren't really things we learned. It was just like, how do you create a content calendar basically for somebody,
That is true. I'm like, yeah, we got our degrees, but we are learning this just like everybody else in real time.
Yep.
And so I know you are on track to be Inc.'s 5,000, one of the fastest growing companies in the U.S. What do you think has contributed to your company's success to hit that milestone?
And I tell you what, Keri, like what's really wild is like I thought about this the other day and I was like, I forgot to submit it. For the Inc. 5,000, you have to but whatever. So like we technically would be on the list. I forgot to submit my application, but
sir,
either way.
Well, we're still claiming that for you.
Yeah.
Even though you forgot to submit it, we're still claiming it.
I'm still absolutely claiming that. I think what has contributed to it, honestly, is just like being in the right place at the right time and having some luck strike in a lot of ways. Because I would say for the longest time of like running the operation, like we've done really good work. And we, I don't want to say had a stroke of luck in some ways, but when COVID really happened, we showed up already for like being Black-owned marketing agency, just due to search engine optimization being one of our skills and one of the things we do. And then right place, right time of like that became a trend, like with everything happening at that point in time, and doors starting to open up where like now we're having different opportunities. And I think everything from there, because client retention is like a massive part, is that because we focus so much on trying to make a difference, I think that's reflected with like our internal culture as like an agency. So it's not always necessarily driven by even me, which is crazy these days. But the team really kind of like
good.
You
don't want your company to just be driven by one person, right?
Correct.
You want to create an ecosystem and a team. So like if you had to step away or something, your team could still function without you being in the center.
And I think that really resonates with like our clients. I think they see that we're genuine in terms of like our intent to really help them do better rather than making money so that we can continue to exist. And I think that really has helped us continue to be sustainably growing.
So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast too is I was like, oh, he's community and purpose driven, and that is right up my alley. We had talked before, and I'm like, oh, I do these events, and this is the goal of the podcast and the newsletter and all that stuff.
Right.
And you mentioned earlier, you wanted to make an impact, and you found the path to do that with your own agency. But what's your background in that space that made you always feel like the work that I do, I want to make sure that I'm not just making money, but I'm also making money, but also making a difference in, my neighborhood, my community, wherever you are located.
Yeah, it's a really great question. And honestly, I don't know if I have like a great answer. I think like as like a culture, like especially just within the Black culture, we have so much of like almost like ingrained in us, like, hey, people sacrificed for us to get to this spot. So therefore, like, it's also your duty to sacrifice to get to the next thing. So I think there's a lot of that behind like this intent of like, how do I help others get to this point in this space? I also think a lot of it is that for me, if it's not meaningful, why do it? So you talked about like CPG stuff before, and like, I don't know, this is partly being an entrepreneur, but I feel like I could do a lot of different things for different people. And like, would I really be excited about like helping this organization, Nike, who's already making a lot of money selling these things that we don't really need, make more money? Or how do we actually help folks who are doing really good stuff and need help? How do we actually help them move forward? So I think that really is like a huge underlying part for me, is that I think I'd be bored in my job and I would lack motivation if it wasn't actually something meaningful in moving the world forward.
I can relate, and we can talk about that more offline.
Okay, cool. I
understand completely. So how do you choose your clients? Because I know when you go to your website, it says, you work with purpose-driven clients. So what does purpose-driven in that sense look like in terms of your clients, and how do you choose the clients to make sure they're in alignment with your company?
Yeah, it's a really big question that's honestly gotten trickier than what I thought. So I'll give you the simple answer, I guess. I'll give complicated. Because on the surface, it's really simple, which is is what that organization is doing positively impacting, again, I'll just say the world is a broad sweeping term. So, for example, we work with a bank, but that bank is focused on Black communities. So, that's, I would say, much more of I'm not trying to compare, but more of a positive up the alley of community-based growth than a JP Morgan as an example. In some cases, nonprofits, it's very straightforward, easy to understand. And I think where it's gotten more complex and complicated is when you actually start doing the deep dive into the organization to figure out what is it that they say and what is it that they actually do.
Are they in alignment?
Yeah, correct. Because even for some of these nonprofits, they do really good work, but you might find something in the news. I won't name this organization. If people are watching are smart and they can figure
They'll
out.
figure it out.
Yeah, they can figure it out.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because we had a project that aligned on paper. It was nonprofit. They do good stuff. Cool. And then you look up the news and it's okay, they just got rid of their executive director after a year, in part because people think that person was trying to push inclusivity and those types of initiatives and then got a whole lot of pushback. So they got rid of the ED. So then you're oh, on paper, I thought that was our ideal client, but are
in
they?
Reality, yeah.
So I think there's a lot that I'm learning still about who's an ideal client or not, where it kind of takes some research to figure it out.
And so how does that work? So if someone reaches out to you, because now I'm being nosy all in your
You're
business. if an organization reaches out to you and you do that deep dive, so have there been times where you had to tell people thanks for reaching out, but after you've done your research, you realize we're not in alignment?
Yeah, and it's absolutely, yes, we've had to do that. And it's tricky because we're also running a business and we need money to run a business,
Yes.
So it's figuring out both, and again, haven't figured it out completely, but where is it that my personal values align, but also where is it that my team's values might align? And I'm making this example up, but I might feel one type of way about LGBTQ stuff and what is acceptable for me in that space, but we might have team members who feel completely differently about what that looks like. So I think we're continuing to shape and figure out ideal client, not even just in terms of me as the CEO founder, but
as a company.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that it encompasses everyone's input. And that kind of reminds me, I had Andrew from Andrew Roby Events on, and he had actually changed his clientele because he wanted to work with more purpose-driven clients. And that was one of the things. It was I can work with anybody, but he was very big on inclusivity. And, if he's working with certain vendors, do they have a diverse group of people for their vendors, and having specific clients that are community-based or purpose-driven organizations too. So I love that people are making that shift. If you're going to do work, there's room for you to make a living, but also be impactful.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you feel you have to choose.
Absolutely. And I know you've done other interviews about mental health stuff. And I've also just really realized that is a massive component of this entire thing, which is when we work with organizations that are not in alignment with the mission, then you don't feel good about it. Yeah. And if you don't feel good about it, you aren't going to want to show up to work.
That is
and
true.
It's going to be really difficult for you to keep doing the things that you're doing, So I think that also plays a huge role. Is just energetically in some ways, how do you feel about this project that you're committing to work on for a long time?
That is true. Yeah, you have to enjoy. Back to your point, you want to enjoy it, and you want to enjoy the work. So because you work with a lot of organizations and small businesses too, because you work with some of my friends, small businesses too. But I think when we talked about them too, it was the work that they're doing. Yes, they're a coaching business, but they're still making an impact because the majority of their clients are Black and brown.
Yeah.
And we don't see a lot of people in that space that they're helping their clients. So yes, you can be a nonprofit, but you can also be a small business. But if your impact is one that's going to be community driven, or you're in a space that is marginalized, I don't really like that word because we're not on the margins, and we're not minor. Right. But if you're off to the in the margins of things, then you can still make an impact. When it comes to working with organizations, small businesses, what are some of the, we'll say, marketing mistakes that they're making? So by the time they come to you, these are the things that they've done. There's like, you definitely need some help. You definitely need some help.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's two things. Like, first and foremost, this is like where like we actually, the marketing degree kind of helps. So like marketing 101 is like, who's your audience?
Yes.
And I swear to you, it is like crazy to me, like how often like that just gets missed, you know? Like we have a intern right now who's in high school still. And that's basically like the lessons I've been trying to teach him is like, you know what, this marketing thing's actually pretty easy because if you want to convince Keri, like, Keri, you should buy this thing, all you gotta do is ask Keri, like, what are you looking for in this thing? And then tell her exactly what she just told you, you know? So I feel like oftentimes, whether it's like a mission-driven organization or like a small, you know, like startup, like I think that part gets missed and we are often trying to figure out like in our own heads, like how do we push our idea, this really good idea to like people instead of just asking them like, what's your take on it? And I'll just use our organization as an example, which is that we do a lot of really techie, geeky things.
Yeah.
If you talk to nonprofits, they're just like, I don't know, we don't even run ads. Like, we don't know if they're working. So, you know,
believe that, yeah.
So we might get lost in all these acronyms of like data and da-da-da-da-da. And our target audience is like, we don't know what any of that stuff
You got to make
means.
it plain.
Yep. Take 500 steps
You got to
backwards,
make it plain.
then we'll go there.
Yep.
So I think that's one. And the second one I think is like, especially more important as we're moving into like this AI world and everything like that. Yeah. I think data is massive in that, especially in the mission-driven space, there's not a lot of reporting or understanding of like, is what we're doing working or not working? Or how do we even measure if it's working or not working, you know? And I think that trips a lot of people up because you might be spending money on something that's not working at all and you have no idea.
To know why. Yeah. To your point for knowing your audience, that's the one thing I will always, I'm like, who, and when it comes to knowing your audience too, your audience can change over time. That's one of the things I learned when I was working with Dunder Station. When I started with them, it was a little bit more general and broad, but the more work that we did, there was a commonality with the type of clients that were coming. I was like, okay, we need to look at our clients again. And then your messaging changes based on who your ideal client is. But when it comes to that, it's like, keep your messaging simple. Because what will happen is that as the company, we will speak as if we're marketing to ourselves. It's like, you know what it is. So you talking your jargon, but your audience, not to your point, like the tech stuff, you got to make it as plain as possible. What is their pain point? How can you help them solve that problem? So that's a really, really good point. But let's talk about the things that you do help your clients. What are the areas in the digital marketing space that you do help clients with?
Yeah, honestly, all the above. So we're helping them build websites. We're helping them run advertisements. We're, in short, helping them show up. And I would say where we've really leaned into, without getting into the weeds of all the data stuff, is like actually measuring how does this thing work or not work. Because the way that...
In terms of like ads?
Correct. In terms of advertising. Online ads and stuff, even in terms of if we gave somebody like flyers and we were doing community outreach for overdose programs, just as like a hypothetical example, we could put QR codes on those pieces of paper so we actually know like how many people are downloading resources or visiting the resources for these specific things. Gotcha. And the reason I think I personally geek out about this and think it's really important is because like, to that same point, if we collectively are spending hundreds of millions, probably billions of dollars on marketing and advertising for cause-related things to create positive behavior change, and they're not actually creating behavior change, and all we need to do is just like use a QR code or set up this tech thing, then we can honestly like make a massive change in the world by not doing anything drastically different. Just improving the way that we're already going about something that you wouldn't even think is affecting, you know, positive change in the world, which is marketing, you know? So, yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about B-Corp. You are a B-Corp organization. When we had talked before, when we even met, our friends connected us and we met on the Zoom. We did a Zoom call. We were just chatting. And you talked about B-Corp. Explain to people what that is. Because I think you even told me, you're like, well, you should look into being a B-Corp because of all the community-driven stuff that I do. So let's talk about a little bit about the B Corp and your goal of donating.
Yeah.
A quarter of a million by 2028.
Yep.
So let's dive into that a little bit because I love that. I love that you have that goal.
Yeah. So Benefit Corporation, I'm gonna mess it up because like they have like two separate organizations. But what a B Corp in essence is about is like for-profit companies taking what's called like a stakeholder approach to the way they're running a business. So stakeholder versus shareholder, basically. So shareholder approach, traditional for-profit businesses, it's how do you generate more profit for the shareholders.
Yeah.
Whether you're a single owner of the business and you're trying to make yourself more money or multiple people own it, it's just all about like how do we make more money. So the B Corp approach to it is more about how do you impact anybody who's affected by your business, whether that is the owner, whether that's the employees, whether it's the local community, taking a holistic approach of how does the business influence and impact all of these different facets.
Basically, like all the stakeholders, or touch points, not even stakeholders, but like touch points of your business.
Yes, thank you. That's taking 500 steps back. Not stakeholders, just who actually touches our organization.
Gotcha.
Easy. So for us, it's interesting because like we started with really simple things, which was like, who do we work with? You know, nonprofits, mission-driven organizations, things like that. And now it's taking additional steps of like, all right, how do we actually get involved in the community? So we've done volunteering for like local organizations. Like last month, I want to say we were at like a local farm, like helping them do like things like that. So like everyone who could like possibly be touched by our business, how do we actually try to do that in a positive way? And the donation goal too. Yeah. So we're donating 1% of our profit every single year. So with how we're growing, that's really how I kind of came to that like $250,000 thing. And where I'm really focused is trying to figure out what are the local partnerships that we can do to really make that $250,000 like go as far as it can possibly go. So similar with like this farm that we were kind of going to volunteer at, this just small community farm. It's like we could just write them a check every single year and be like, here you go, we did our due diligence. But we're really intentional about trying to figure out how can we not just like monetarily like contribute, especially locally, but how can we actually show up with our time and make our presence felt, essentially.
Are y'all hiring?
We can be.
I'm gonna say y'all hiring. Y'all need a consultant.
Yeah.
Part time. Listen,
I got you.
I can help y'all over there because I love that you guys do that as an organization. I absolutely love that.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about AI because AI is a hot topic.
Yeah.
And how I don't even know the right question to talk about y'all because it's such a big topic.
It is massive.
But when it comes to AI and integrating it into the work that you're doing, especially with your clients, or I guess you could say in the marketing space as a whole, like what are your thoughts on AI and how how it's being integrated into the marketing world?
Yeah. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot there. Because I think what I could talk about is like how we leverage it. I think that's a little bit less interesting. Meaning like, I don't know, because we are, again, in the weeds of like all these techie things. So we're using it to like generate creative concepts, to write copy and, do all these fun things. But I think where the applications get kind of interesting is like how can our clients who are not in the weeds of things leverage artificial intelligence in a way that they can like move their own organizations forward. It's kind of scary for us because then it's like, do they need you?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
But I think a lot of it really is, at least what we're focused on, is how do we create tools to help these organizations implement these things essentially for free, even without our help. And I think a lot more of that becomes possible with artificial intelligence tools, even just to figure out like what are the right questions to ask. So we talked a little bit about how like, I think we talked about this offline before we started recording, how some people will hire coaches and the coaches are not actually doing what they promised to do. So in our space, it's the same thing. A lot of organizations, because they're strapped for cash, they're strapped for time, they're going to just like hire a marketing agency to like do this work. Well, because they're 500 steps back from where we are, they don't know even necessarily like what's the question I asked to know if this thing is working or not working. So we can use artificial intelligence as like that sort of research tool to basically say like, here's some parameters that you can input based on whoever you're currently working with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to tell you like, are they doing as good as they could?
Mm-hmm.
Here's questions that you can ask of them. If you're not happy with the questions, fantastic. But like, I think that's really where I'm seeing some opportunity is creating free tools that enable people to make their own decisions about how can you implement better systems, processes, and make your organization function a little bit better.
That's a good idea. Because, I attended a AI online summit yesterday, and one of the things they were talking about was like workflows and how to make your processes and things basically to streamline everything so you can shave off hours trying to do things. But yeah, equipping organizations to ask the right questions, I think, is a really, really good idea because they don't know most of the time. They just know they need help, but they don't really know exactly what they need. I'm sure you come across that when by the time they reach out to you, like they think they know what they need, and then you start getting in the weeds, and you're like, well, actually, you need Y, not X. But you know what I mean? Like once you start having conversations, like, yeah, this is what you think, but what it is really this. Once you look at data and do your research and stuff. So seeing where Goldiata has been the last 7-8 years.
Yeah.
The growth.
That in itself is crazy. 8 years.
2017.
Yeah.
It's been 8 years. You've been involved in the community because I know even I looked on your website, it shows some of the organizations, and you do volunteer stuff on your own as well. Impact organizations you work with, helping clients, SEO, advertising, digital marketing space. Where do you see Goldiata in the next, let's say, 3 years? Where would you like to see the company? No, actually not 3 years. By the time you hit 10 years. In 2 years, where would you like to see the company?
That's a big question in a lot of ways because, 10 years, I'm just being honest, we might not exist, and
you don't think so?
I don't even say that in a bad way, but with the way artificial intelligence is going, who knows? I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
But I would say for 3 years, because I can see that a little bit clearer. I know I told you before I'm geeking out on the data side of things, and I think that's really where we can make our biggest imprint and focus is how do we help organizations actually make a meaningful impact in a way that is tangible and trackable. Because I've seen it where we worked with an organization and we were actually able to measurably change policy, essentially. So because we were measuring and tracking, we could see 2,000 letters got sent to legislators from citizens. Whereas if we weren't doing tracking, those 2,000 letters might not be sent. That policy change may not happen. Right. But because we did that work, it was a $60 million increase in budgeting for early childhood programs. Wow. I don't see very many organizations that are doing that level of work for these mission-driven organizations. Right. There's a ton of really great companies that tell great stories and great design and branding, etc. But I think there's a place for us to really help. How do we actually make this change? Because again, we're talking about hundreds of millions, probably more than that, that get spent towards these efforts that are intended to create change that I just personally believe probably are not being spent in the most effective manner, where we can not only tangibly donate $250,000, but if we can multiply that impact for all these different organizations, it's actually quite insane to think about how much change we could make nationally in all of these different communities across the nation. So that's what I'm really fired up about and what I'm really trying to push and figure out how do we do more of that level of work over the next 3 years.
Well, this sounds like you'll still be here then.
Yeah.
by the time you hit 10. You just may be shifting the type of work. You may have started off one thing. It's okay, we're doing ads, SEO, website. But as you've grown as a company, as you grow as an individual, as you get more clear on your clients, your purpose might change. And you may be more, we're going to be more data-driven and focusing on different initiatives that drive policy forward versus what you were doing before. So I think you'll still be here.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm looking forward to still being here.
I think you'll still be here. But before we wrap up, I want to do a little rapid fire, some fun questions.
Let's do it. All right.
What is one of your favorite hobbies?
Favorite hobbies, I tell you, this is something I actually need to do more of because I did it once, but I'm already labeling it as a hobby.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I went
You're
on.
claiming it.
I'm claiming. I'm fully claiming
you
it.
Claim it.
I went on a safari 2 years ago. I went fishing for the first time, and I caught a fish.
And
Like, I don't know, like massive fish. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm in. I'm all the way in
I'm
now.
all in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like I didn't know like that was even like a fun thing. I never would have thought I'd just be sitting there with like a pole and a rod. But like, I don't know, the thrill of like catching a fish. I was like, what? So I'm all the way in.
Okay, so this fall,
Yeah.
you're going fishing.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, yeah. This summer,
This
I'm
summer.
gonna make it
Yeah.
happen.
So
Yep.
summer is not over yet.
If my Uncle Larry's watching, he said he's gonna take me fishing. I'm gonna go out there with my Uncle Larry.
There you go. I love that. What is your favorite Baltimore restaurant?
Oh man, favorite, not most convenient. Easy. Convenient. Mira.
Okay.
Is like block down the street. Love
Okay.
Mira. Best easy. So like Ekibin all day long.
No, I haven't been to Baltimore as often as I should be. So I'm gonna take these. I'm gonna take some notes and go up there.
It's not a sit-in. It's like a fast casual.
Okay.
Ekibin will change your life.
Gotcha. What is one organization you love to work with that you haven't worked with yet?
Oh, that is a really good one. One that I'm really excited about that we didn't get a chance to work with, Port Discovery. I would love to do work with children-based organizations and helping them grow and thrive. Nice. Yeah.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
I would say trust yourself. That's probably like easily the biggest one I would say from like growing up is like part of the reason I started the business was because I had internships where I saw maybe this is like not how other people think, but I was working at these internships and I saw how things worked and I was like, I can just figure out how to do this myself. Like I could sit here and just like take my time and like work my way up this ladder, or I could just go into Google or go to YouTube and like
YouTube University.
Yeah, figure out how to do this. So I would say like for my younger self, like that, like things aren't as like grandiose or like whatever as they may seem. People who are your idols or whatever, like they're just normal people. So just trust yourself more and just go figure things out.
Love that. That's one of the things I realized when I was in LA and you would meet celebrities and stuff because I was assisting as a stylist and working with some people and I'm like, they're just like everybody else. Like we put these idols and people in these specific positions on a pedestal and then you meet them and you're like, they're just like us.
Yeah, I know. And I'm telling you, like I partly say that because someone's going to watch this and they're going to be like, man, Brian, he must have did all this crazy stuff. I'm like, no. I'm just a normal person.
And what is one of the most underrated skills for an entrepreneur?
Oh, asking for help. Yeah. Easily asking for help.
Kyle's over there like, yes. We're all like, yes. We can all agree with that one.
Yeah,
yes.
because like you can't know. Like you cannot know everything that's possibly going to go. And like maybe this is not something I should say while getting recorded or on camera, but like, I don't know. We're 8 years into the company. Like we're at $2 million. Have I ever run a $2 million organization? No. When we get to 3, 4, 5, have I ever? No. So like, I don't know, just being humble about those things and just asking people like, what do you do? Like when you get to these stages, you know?
And more people are willing to help you than we think. Because I think sometimes we think it's an inconvenience or we're bothering people, but more people are willing to help if you just ask.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here and joining me today. Let everybody know where they can connect with you and your company.
Oh man, you're gonna hate this, but like the easiest way, the best place to connect with me is honest to God LinkedIn. As crazy as that sounds. Well, you know, I feel like normally it's the gram or something like that.
Well, I've had some people on here. They're like, "Find me on LinkedIn."
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn.
Some people still sleeping on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great place. I know some people have complained like, "Oh, it's not like it used to be," and like, it's basically a content creator platform now, personal branding platform. But it is a great place to connect.
It is. Yes. So find me on LinkedIn. If you type in our company name, Goldiata, Goldiata. Nobody else will come up. You can easily find videos of me that I forgot are out there on the internet.
I think it was another podcast interview. I think it was just short, like 5 or 6 minute podcast interview you did. It was on YouTube, and I was like, oh, let me just watch this real quick. Yeah. So you will find out everything about me. Awesome. Well, you guys, make sure you check out Goldiata. If you are a nonprofit or purpose-driven organization, small business, and you need some help, you need to get your data together. You need to be able to track things. You want to learn how to run some ads online. Hit up Brian on LinkedIn. Check out Goldiata. Thank you for tuning into this episode, and I will see you guys next time. If you enjoyed this episode, drop a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to the Kickback with Keri newsletter.